You know, Toho does not just make Godzilla movies. They make other movies as well. And I just watched one and it was great. Let's review it. So the Great War of Archimedes. This is a Toho produced movie, a World War II timepiece, and it's somewhat fictional, also based on a true story. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to try and kind of tell you what exactly is fictional. This is a fantastic movie. This is a fantastic movie. And for those of you who come to the streams, you know I've shown this trailer before, and it looked epic and all that. Well, guess what? It's not a war movie per se. There's no fighting on the waters. There's no ships shooting ships or submarines being sank. It's basically a story about the what took place to get to a point where they built the battleship Yamato. For those of you, I'm sure all of you know, the battleship Yamato was a state-of-the-art battleship back during World War II, during the Pacific War between Japan and America. And it's just a fantastic story. Now, I watched the movie in in subtitles. Many of you guys know I'm not a subtitle person. I usually like to watch those kinds of things with English dub because I don't want to miss what's going on screen. However, the opening scene is pretty much what you see in the trailer, which is the ship being bombed by the United States. And there was a scene where one of the military men was firing the gun, and he's like, hey, look, I got one. And I heard that and I was like, yeah, this is not going to work because I'm in that World War II mindset, and yeah, Japanese people didn't say that. So I switched it back to subtitles, and I don't regret it because this is a well-crafted story and character-driven movie that I absolutely fell in love with. So again, the story is about building the Yamato and what events led to it and what events took place and the reasoning behind it. And what I love about this movie is that you kind of get to see things from the Japanese perspective and what their reasoning was for building this ship. Now, one of the characters in this movie is the famous General Yamamoto, who in this movie, and from what I understand, this was his true vision at the time as well, he wanted to go away from battleships. He wanted to focus on building aircraft carriers. He believed, and he was right, he believed that aircraft carriers and air superiority were the key to basically all wars going forward. And he's right. I mean, you look at how things are now, air superiority is the thing. Most times when the United States enter a war or a conflict, they're never going to do it without air support. And so it's kind of amazing how ahead of his time his thinking was in terms of fighting in wars and things of that nature. And basically in the movie, General Yamamoto and a colleague of his, again, I don't remember all the names, so bear with me. I'll try to name them out as much as I can, basically have to present to their government a budget for building a new aircraft carrier. And then there's another naval general who has to give their budget to the government to build a new battleship. And that's really where the story starts. And it involves a young man named, his name is Tadashi Kai. And Tadashi Kai is, and this is part of this is the fictional part. Tadashi Kai is a young mathematician. He's like a high spectrum autistic, but he's obsessed with math. He's an expert at math, and he loves taking measurements and doing formulas in his head to figure things out. He almost uses math for everything he does in life. And General Yamamoto they run into this young man at like a Japanese brothel, basically, with a bunch of geishas, and Kai basically is hoarding all the geishas, right? So General Yamamoto goes and says, hey, you're hoarding all the geishas. You mind letting us have some and we'll pay you? And he's like, nope. Turns out that Kai does not like war. He does not like the military. He doesn't like the government. And he plans to move to America to attend Harvard. So when General Yamamoto meets him for the first time at the brothel, he notices that Kai is being so obsessed with math is actually doing formulas with the geishas based on how their bosoms and things of that nature, and whether or not he can fling a paper through the it's pretty wild. It's pretty funny actually. But General Yamamoto is amazed with his mathematicians, and the reason he's interested in this kid is because when he finds out what the budget is to build the Yamato, he believes that the other generals are undercutting the cost. Like they're basically lying to the government about what this ship would cost because they really want to build the ship, and they showed basically a model of almost a life size, not a life size, but a model of what the ship would look like and how it would be built. And the government was very impressed to the point that they weren't even considering the aircraft carrier. So he has like 2 weeks to prove that the Yamato is not going to cost, I believe it was 93 million yen, where their aircraft carrier was 89 million. So at first, Kai rejects them outright. He's like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to America. I have no interest. But later on, he has a revelation as he's boarding the ship, and he kind of sees the city on fire, the city burning, and he realizes that if he doesn't stop this ship from being built, it may cause war, because he believes that if Japan built the Yamato, then the world might take it as a threat or a sign that they're going to war, and he doesn't want that for his country. So he kind of starts to have second thoughts about going to America and not taking an opportunity to remove, because remember, he hates the military, but he's kind of now thinking about using the military to prevent the government from building such a large ship. Plus, he even talks about, oh, this is going to cost the people. People are going to pay for this, and all it's going to do is bring them despair. It's very, very well thought out. So he joins the Navy. He tells Yamamoto, all right, I'm going to help you. As much as I hate you guys, I'm going to help you. So he signs up with the Navy. He's immediately promoted to like lieutenant. And he is given like, for lack of a better term, a patsy. And basically this patsy is named, excuse me, let me just bring his name up. Ensign Tanaka. And throughout the movie, Tanaka and Kai are diligently working together to figure out what it's going to cost to build the Yamato. They go through all these old ships. Kai takes measurements. And the funny thing, the thing I love about this part of the movie, this is like the center part of the movie, is that Ensign Tanaka does not like Kai. When he first meets him, he thinks he's disrespectful towards the military. He thinks he's disrespectful towards his country. The first time he meets him and Kai rejects him, he completely hates Kai. Ensign Tanaka. So when Kai does join and is immediately outranks Ensign Tanaka, you can imagine how furious this made Tanaka, having to now serve the very man he hates. So this was a really good character dynamic. And what ends up happening is, as he sees Kai working diligently day and night to come up with a formula, to come up with all these numbers, to give the best estimate as to what it's going to cost to build a Yamato, they start to slowly make a bond. They start to slowly bond together. And the development from the time he hates him to the time where they're really working together, it's incredible dialogue. It's funny as well, because Tanaka is like kind of giving him a lot of shit. Even though he just outranks him, he treats him like an officer that he has to listen to, but at the same time, he's like, he takes his orders, but he does it while snapping at Kai. And so there's a lot of funny moments there. But without giving away any more of the movie, they go through, and there are moments where the other side sabotages them. They get their time cut short, so they go from needing like 2 weeks, and they only get like 4 or 5 days. So then they're getting rejected at every turn because they have to go to shipyards to get estimates on like labor, ship parts, things of that nature, and they're getting rejected. So finally, when things start to finally kind of turn in their favor, the best part of this movie is like the last half hour to 45 minutes when they have to make the presentation. This scene right here, this whole sequence was absolutely epic. So Tanaka and Kai enter the room with the General Yamamoto, his colleague, and the other two generals, and they're going back and forth. Meanwhile, because they were pressed for time, Kai and Tanaka are still working on the formula. And this is the best part of the movie, so I'm not going to give away anymore. What I will say is that the last sequence of this movie is absolutely fucking incredible. The way that the dialogue, the acting is outstanding. I was sitting there watching this in absolute awe because, you know, we see movies here in America, and if it's a really good story movie with good acting, you know, you're like, damn, this is good. And you know that feeling. We've all seen that one movie here in the States that's like an Oscar-worthy movie that gives great performances, is a great story. This is on that level. Like, I am not kidding. This movie is on that level. The guy who plays Kai, Masaki Suda is his real name. He killed it in this movie. He was absolutely incredible. And interestingly enough, this movie was nominated for several Academy Awards in Japan, and the guy that plays Ensign Tanaka, his real name is Tasuku Imoto, won for Best Supporting Actor in this movie, and he goddamn deserved it because he's like my favorite character in the whole movie because he has the best change in the movie. Imagine his character hates Kai. He hates him. And he goes from hating him to basically they have this mutual respect to become like good friends. And that transition is so well written and so well acted. I was blown away by this movie. I really was. And what the other thing that's amazing about it is, again, you get to see Japan's perspective on what's to come. And, you know, when this whole thing first starts, them building the ship or Pearl Harbor hadn't been bombed yet. Pearl Harbor was bombed in the middle of what's happening during this movie in terms of the ship. Now, the math, the part that includes the math and coming up with the formula to stop building the ship and all that, that's all fictional. You know what I mean? That's all fictional. We know that what's fact is that the Yamato was eventually built. And the reasoning that they give in this movie is so poetically... It's so poetic, you know what I mean? And I don't want to give it away because you guys got to watch this movie. The very end, you got to watch this movie because you're going to be like, wow. And what's interesting is what you learn in this movie is that Japanese people don't have the kind of sympathy for what they did in World War II like we do. You know what I mean? This is what blew me away. You know, especially in the Godzilla community, right? You always hear about people, oh, you know, we bombed them and this and that. They don't see it that way. In fact, this director had made another wartime movie where he was sympathetic towards Japan during the war, and he got blasted out over there. The media blasted him for that because they saw Japan. They see themselves during that time as villains. They do. They accept the fact that we were bad during that time. I'm not not to say that they were deserving of what happened. I think we all agree, but they do not give sympathy to themselves like we give sympathy to them. And it's amazing to see this movie and that perspective when you, for all your life, have seen the perspective that we've been given. They don't even see Americans as evil. And what's amazing is America during that time was they had their backs on the wall, and Japan's naval fleet completely was more technologically advanced. They were faster than American fleet. But even Japan in the movie, like in the movie, they talk about, you know, we cannot win a war against the Americans. You know, they felt they could win a war on the sea, but they didn't think they could win a war any other way. And that's what, and you know, if you look at history, one of the reasons America won the Pacific War wasn't because they had better technology or better planes. They had better strategy and a little bit of luck, because one of the things you remember is that they went on a hunt for the Yamato and they caught it out there and they bombed it. So this is just a great movie. I really recommend this. This is going to be in my top 5. Where I rank it in the top 5, I'm not sure yet. I got to kind of look at the movies and evaluate. But let me tell you something. This is a fantastic movie. And it's a shame that it didn't get a foreign film release here, because I really do think it probably would have turned a lot of heads. This is one of those movies where you're like, yeah, this is like an Oscar-worthy movie. And while we, you know, obviously it won't be nominated for Oscars here, it was nominated for Academy Awards in Japan, and very happy that Tasuku Imoto won the Best Supporting Actor, because he was great as Ensign Tanaka. Not only was he very, very good at his acting, he was very funny. It's just a good movie, guys. Just go see it. The Great War of Archimedes, produced by Toho. Now you got another Toho movie to watch that's not a Godzilla movie. And let me tell you something, it is a gem. So Let me know in the comment section if you have seen The Great War of Archimedes. Let me know what you thought. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to seeing if you guys see this, and maybe one of the streams next week we can talk more about it. But look, it's on Prime. You can rent it for $3.99. You get access to it for 48 hours. Go check it out. Great War of Archimedes is a gem. One of my, even though it came out in 2019, one of my favorites for 2021. Absolute gem piece. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.